Yay, we're live. We're live. Hello, everyone. Good morning, depending on what part of the world you're joining in from. I'm joining in from Lagos, Nigeria, where it is exactly 13 minutes past 10. So welcome if you're joining. This is my second. I feel like I should have done the Guinness World Book of Records marathon for longest LinkedIn live on International Women's Day or something. But anyway, if this is your first time joining my channel, my name is Dr. Glory Edozian, and I'm a thought leadership branding expert and a LinkedIn top voice. And today I'm having a conversation around female leadership and inclusivity, right? And today I have amazing guests who are part of the alumni of my flagship program, the LinkedIn Visibility and Content Strategy Program. But these women are phenomenal women in their own rights, and I'm super excited to have them here and having a conversation around what inclusivity looks like in their sectors. We're having this conversation because it's International Women's Day. Yes, a day specifically set aside to celebrate and to discuss women and our socioeconomic and empowerment issues. So I'm very excited to welcome these women here today. If you are joining us for the first time, or you are part of the other conversation, or you're just joining us now, it's fine. Please put your name and where you are joining from, the city you're joining from in the chat, and we'll be sure to welcome you. Okay, so let's get started. I have a lot of women to introduce here today. So the first person I want to introduce is I have Dr. Chizo Ezim. She's a public health expert, a global public health specialist, I should say, with over 15 years of experience in strategies for large scale health programs in African organizations. She has worked for multi and bilateral donors, central government, national implementing institutions, local authorities, NGOs, and international and local consultants. I also have Bukola Olaya, who is a business leader with over 10 years of experience in the FMCG sector, and planning and value chain management. Her experience revolves around front-facing supply chain structures. And currently, she is the customs operations manager for West Africa at Unilever. Bukola, you're very, very welcome. And last but certainly in no way the least, today I have with me the Group Head Legal Services for AA and R Investment Group, Iyola Oyefeso. She's General Counsel with over 14 years of legal compliance and transactional experiences, a trusted advisor to executive leaders and boards, and provides legal and compliance support to organizations to achieve business growth and sustainability. Okay, so that was a mouthful, but hello, ladies. Hello,
Hello.
ladies. Hello, how are
Dr.
you?
Glory. Hello,
Good.
Dr. Glory.
Excellent. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. So, guys, I've introduced the ladies. Please feel free to introduce yourself by telling us your name and where you are joining from in the chat so we can welcome you. So, welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for doing this. My first question is around obviously, we're talking about inspiring inclusion. And I just wondered maybe if Dr. Chizo, you can tell us what is your inclusion story? What does inclusion look like for you?
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Glory, for the question. So, when it comes to my inclusion story, the way I'm going to approach it is that this is not necessarily inclusion for me, but inclusion for other women who I work with. Now, in the
Mm,
NGO field, it tends to be very women dominated at mid levels. And as you go higher up, tend to taper off. Now, my inclusion story is that as I work with women who tend to be around the reproductive age, I like to
mm,
give flexibility when it comes
wow.
to their working so that they are able to structure work in a way that best suits their current lives because some of them have children, they need to do different things. Now if they are working in a very rigid environment, it means that they are more likely to drop off. So when I'm working with women of that age bracket, I make sure to give them flexibility to allow them produce your work when you're going to produce the work. You don't have to be
Mm,
physically in front of me. All I want are the results. So if you can do it at night, if you can do it early in the morning, you don't have to do it during working hours. So giving them that flexibility to allow them remain in the workforce and they don't need to drop off during that reproductive, that band when they are caring for their family. So that's my inclusion story.
I think that's a fantastic inclusion story, Dr. Chisa. Thank you for sharing. In my last conversation, with Sarah Maka, who is the executive director for the One Campaign. One of the things she said was around how for women, biological clock and career ladder acceleration, they don't align. And
Yes.
these are some of the things that organizations have to be mindful of
Yes.
when they are making decisions around inclusivity for women. So it's good to see another woman sort of imbibing that, because at the end of the day, the people that apply corporate structures are the women, are the leaders, are the men. So it's good to see, to hear you speak about that. So thank you for sharing.
Okay.
Bukola, I want to come to you immediately, right? And I think you're muted. You might want to unmute yourself. But my question to you is around, we hear, especially for the FMCG sector, when we're talking about women working in factories, or even whether women who are working from their desks, there's a lot of unconscious bias, right, about what women can and cannot do. So, what are some of those unconscious biases that you maybe have experienced, and how can we rise above them?
So thank first of all, thank you, Dr. Dory, for having me here. I'm so grateful. Like it's a privilege to be here to share my
Oh,
story. Thank you. The FMCG, it's much better now. About 13 years ago when I started, it was more male dominated. I remember joining as a management training, and in the my set of supply chain of 6 people, I was the only female. So it shows that more male.
wow.
So because they tend to look at you as a male in terms of the strength, the speed, the flexibility. Someone might choose to fix a meeting at late night, hang out with the boys, and at that time you want to go home and you're wondering, when did you discuss this? When did this happen? Oh, we spoke about it yesterday. So there are different things like that. When I began to like you talked about the reproductive stage, and you need to rush home or do some things they've gone ahead to do. So when you understand all these bias, for me, what I did was to have would like say an ally or a way to on okay, they've gone out yesterday, I couldn't go. What happened there? Just to get the information, stay on track, and also provide value at work. So there are different bias depending on the stage of your career you're in.
Wow, I love that. I love that, Bukola. So you found an ally, so that okay, yes, I know that this is not something I can meet up with. I can't keep late nights. I have young kids and all of that, but I'm not going to be excluded from the conversation. I'm still going to have a pathway into having these conversations, into hearing what's going on. So that was really smart. Thank you, Bukola. It's also great to know that the FMCG sector is changing, right? That it's not as it was 13 years ago when you joined. So that's fantastic.
Yes, it's
Iola,
much better now.
no, go ahead. You said yes, it's much
No,
better
yeah,
now.
it's much better now. I would say maybe being conscious of recruiting females into some roles. So that deliberate action of recruiting, not just recruiting, giving them an enabling environment to stay has helped the journey.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So it's good to know that International Women's Day and the conversations we are having around creating inclusive spaces for women, it's changing the tide. Thanks, Bukola. Iola, my question to you is something a bit more general, not necessarily, right? So it's really around underserved communities, right? And ensuring how can female leaders in law to work towards getting greater access to justice for underserved communities. Because when we're talking about inclusion, yes, we are women, we are corporate female leaders. I'm a business owner as well, but there are women across the strata, right? So, what are some of the ways that female leaders in law can seek justice for underserved communities?
Okay, thank you very much for having me, Dr. Glory. It's really nice to be here. Um, when you asked the question, I just thought about the fact that in actual fact, there are communities out there that have very limited access to legal support, right? And as a senior legal or female legal officer or senior legal executive, what can you do to help people within that community? The first thing that comes to mind is how about providing pro bono work to them, pro bono legal support? A lot of these people don't have the required legal support that they need They probably can't even afford it, right? So why can't you provide pro bono legal support? Another thing that you can do is to leverage your network, right? So you might be working within a firm and you might feel like the firm doesn't buy into your idea. How about speaking with your network and structuring something out that allows you to be able to
Mm,
provide that pro bono legal service? Another thing that you can do is to try partner with organizations, NGOs, government parastatals, and see how you can provide this legal support to them so that they can also have justice, right? Something else that also comes to mind is the fact that the reason why these people don't have the required support that they need in terms of justice or legal support is probably because there are policies and laws out there that do not provide the enabling environment for that. How about advocating for that? So speaking to the necessary government agencies to allow these communities to have the access that they require in order for them to be able to get good legal support or legal service. So I can go on and on and on, but on and on and on, but what comes to mind is pro bono, partnering with organizations. In fact, it's very interesting that you asked this question because I on online yesterday on LinkedIn I saw a lady and I don't remember her name. She's a lawyer. What she does is that she's established an organization, and what they do is that they provide legal support to communities that don't have access to legal support, to
mm,
justice, right? Or and a lot of them can't afford it, right? Another thing that you could even also do, we speak about advocacy, we speak about providing this legal service to these people. You might also want to reach out to them, do an outreach, understand what their needs are in terms of their legal needs are, so that you can better provide the service that you need to provide to them, right? Or you can even better advocate for them, right? So that's what I'm sure I've given about 3 points now in
mm.
terms of how we can better support on the service underserved communities.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer, and it's great to know that there are various opportunities and people, like you said, the woman that you saw on LinkedIn, who's already doing things around that. I think these questions are also very important because when we talk about inclusion, we're not just talking about, like I said, women at the top part of the ladder or the middle part, but like inclusion all around. So it's good to know that there are opportunities to support underserved communities. Thank you for sharing. Dr. Chizo, I want to come back to you.
Okay.
And it's really around challenges women of color or women of African descent face when pursuing leadership roles in the healthcare sector, right? So obviously you have been somebody that has worked across the gamut of public health and global health. What are some of the challenges that women face when they are trying to attract leadership roles, and how can we solve some of these challenges in the health sector?
Okay. So I think some of the challenges women face, there are a myriad of them, but I'm going to just list a few. The first one I think is being underestimating our capacity. I've had several
Mm,
instances where I'm qualified, I have the experience, but somebody thinks, maybe she just can't do it, and you're wondering why. What is the difference between me and the other person? And it's just gender. So that is one of the challenges that women face. And then if we want to talk about specifically women of color, stereotyping.
mm, mm. Oh, have we lost
It's,
Dr. Chizo?
it looks like,
Okay,
thank
I thought it was me for a second.
No, it's
Okay, so
like
I'm sure the network
Okay.
has been. Okay, Dr. Chizo, you're
Hello?
back. Yeah, so the last thing we heard you say was stereotyping.
she's hung again. Her
Hello?
network.
Yes,
Am I
yes,
back?
you're back. Yes, you're
Okay.
back. So you're
So
talking
I
about
was
stereotype.
I was talking about stereotypes. So the stereotype of either being too much or not enough. So the stereotype of women of color being very loud, being very aggressive, and oh, you're doing too much, you're doing too much. Or if you're not that, then it's that you're too calm, you're too quiet, you're not, you're too. It's seen as weakness. So it's almost like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. You just don't quite, you just don't quite fit. So I would say those are some of the major challenges that I have seen. What can we do about it? I would say when it comes to ability,
Oops, I think we lost Dr. Chizo again.
am I back?
Yes, you are.
Get
You're
back.
back.
Okay, so when it comes to ability, I would say people need to give women the opportunities. If you see someone who is qualified, who has the experience, forget about gender, let the person try out for the role. And then when it comes to something like stereotypes, remove your expectations and treat each individual as unique. Because you have met somebody or you have a perception that people of this area are in this way, that does not mean this person is going to be like that. And do not penalize the person for not meeting your expectations when it comes to the stereotype. You don't have to be loud to achieve results, and being quiet is not a deterrent either. So as long as the person is achieving the results, let the person be. So that's the way I would approach that.
I think that's so interesting. Not being too much or not being enough. It's like you are damned if you are, you are damned if you don't. And it's a constant. I think it's a constant thing that women in leadership, are grappling with. And I discussed this in my last live, where it's like, okay, to be a female leader, do I have to show up like a man? Do I have to be this person that hits on tables and shouts at people, or can I just embrace empathy and intuition and lead? What does female leadership actually look like? That is accepted. So that's such an interesting point. Thank you for raising that.
So
Um,
just
mhm.
to add to that, so that's another thing is that there are many ways to skin a cat, but I think that when it comes to leadership, we only want to use the male leadership model or path. Women are not men, and the fact that you're embracing empathy, what people should be looking at more of is the results.
Love it. Love it. Thank you. There's more than one way to skin a cat for real. So I want to ask a general question to everyone, right? And I think, Dr. Chiza, this is stemming from what you said initially. And it's really about what strategies do we use to stay confident and motivated in our careers, right? We've already talked about this idea of women being too much, not enough. In my last conversation, we're talking about how women even exclude themselves and the things that we say that exclude, make us exclude our own selves, right, from the conversation. So maybe I'll start with Yola, then I'll go to Bukola, and I'll end with Dr. Chizo. What strategies do you use to stay confident and motivated through your career?
So first of all, I remind myself of my strengths. There's a lot of confidence that you gain from understanding who you are, knowing your strength, and being aware of who you are. Right. So I remind of myself of my strengths. I think about my achievements. So even if I'm having a hard time at this point in time, right, I remind myself of the achievements that I've had in time past, right, and that keeps me going. Sometimes what I just do is to speak to my friends, maybe one or two of my friends, and they also remind me of my achievements. Oh, yes, you might be going through this right now, but see all of the things that you've done in the past. Please don't let this bother you. And the reality about life is that you will go through ups and downs. So the moment you realize that, the better for you, isn't it? Right. So I do that as well. Another thing that keeps me motivated that I do, and that will probably be my last point, is that I'm very particular about, drawing up my goals and being very articulate, breaking it down. So that, and then also mapping it in such a way that I know what I have achieved and what I have not yet achieved. So when I go back to my goals and I'm able to track and see how much have achieved, it keeps me motivated, to carry on. Right. So those would be my points. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Yola. I think spoken like a true lawyer. Boom, 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 boom. The point well articulated. So thank you, but very practical as well. Bukola, what about yourself?
It's quite similar to Yola, and I was like, she read my notes. First is understand your style. First, understand your learning style, understand your delivery style. So at a point, I realized that I was auditory. I want to hear thank you. I want to hear my boss tell me you did a great job. But it's good when you have bosses that suit into your style. But when you don't, what happens? I tell myself, so I remind myself, Bukola, you did it. Good job. Pat yourself at the back. So I would say understand yourself. Understand
Wow.
what makes you move on. Then also, like she said on goals, I pick my battles. what is my focus at the moment. I'm not trying to solve everything for everyone, and I'm not trying to solve everything for myself. I pick what moves the needle. So what's that one thing if I do now will deliver 80% or more than 50% of the result? I focus on that. And if it's maybe like trying to juggle, what do I go? Okay, what's the organization goal or what's my goal? What does it take? But things that move the needle. So you streamline your energy and that helps me keep staying on. And at the end of the day, I said, I've done my best. Vicky, cheers. Have a drink till the next day. Thank
Love
you.
it. Love it. I love that idea of saying what is going to move the needle. And you said something for me that was just liberating. I'm not trying to solve everything, not just for everyone, but even for myself. There are many things here, but I'm just going to pick what moves the needle. Thank you, Bukola, for that. Dr. Chizo.
Okay, so all that they've said, so I track my goals, I reflect on my wins, and I remind myself of who I am. In addition to that, I also make sure that I get feedback from
Yeah.
Is it me?
No, no. It's
Um,
Dr. Chizo. I think
Dr.
we've lost
Chizu.
her.
okay, I'm
But I think
back
she's
again.
laughing. Yes, you said you
So
get feedback.
I get feedback from people who know me and know my strengths. So that if there's something that is challenging in the environment and I'm thinking, oh, is it me? Am I doing something wrong? I like to get feedback from people who I trust and say, okay, yes, this is right. Yes, this is wrong. Okay, why don't you tweak it in this way? And that's also very helpful. Another thing that I do is I take a time out and go and be quiet somewhere. Because sometimes, in an attempt to solve the problem, one becomes very reactive, and you need that calm, the zen, for the answer to actually come to you sometimes. I've had situations where it's in my sleep, the answer comes. I just leave it, I sleep, and I wake up, and boom, it comes to me. The third thing that I like to do is that I also like to look at women in the past who have struggled and have succeeded and say, if she did it, she went to rock, rock, rock bottom and she came out on top, then it's possible for me so that one doesn't get into a doom spiral because it's very easy when things are challenging. Yo, this is so bad, it's never going, no. Look at other people. There are people who've had it worse. There are people who have been in worse circumstances with less resources that have been able to achieve things. And that's really, really helpful to me. So I have a number of those that I remind myself, she did it, therefore so can I. It came, her problems came to an end. It was challenging much more than mine. So of course, then why am I in a tizzy about it? So those are some of the things that I do.
I love that, Dr. Chizo. The idea of sometimes, sometimes we can be so reactionary to things, but that 10-second, even if it's as small as 10 seconds time to reflect, to
Yeah.
calm down and to not have the emotional response, but to maybe respond rationally if
Yes.
possible. I think that makes a lot of difference. Thank you. So really, really practical tips from all the ladies. I told you guys, these ladies, they are phenomenal women. I'm taking notes. I've been typing in the chat to keep my notes. Okay, guys, if you're just joining or you've been here for a while, please, this conversation, I'm just here as a facilitator of the conversation. You can put your questions in the chat. You can tell us your name and what city you're joining in from. Thank you, Felgona. She says, happy to be here. Felgona, where are you from? I think she's joining us from YouTube. Okay, so my next question is to you, Iola. I'm going round again, and it's really around roadblocks for women of African descent who are climbing the leadership ladder in law. Right? What are some of the challenges that you have faced, and how can we break down these barriers?
So to be honest, I don't know that I faced any, but I've
Okay,
seen people experience it, and so I'm able to speak from other people's experience, right?
fantastic.
Um, One major one is because I have friends who talk about this every now and then, particularly those that work outside of the country, right? They
Mm,
talk about racial discrimination, gender discrimination as well.
mm,
The fact that they are overlooked essentially when opportunities for, growth or advancement come up, right? Just because they feel certain stereotypes, like they feel that they are not up to it, they can't do it, or maybe they just feel like, oh, they're women, they're not able to handle, certain tasks and all of that. So
mhm.
yes, there's that. And there's that issue that we all know about work-life balance, right? And it doesn't only apply to women of color; it applies to everyone, is in it. There's that, constant, as women, we tend to have a lot of responsibilities, domestic responsibilities. And of course, women of color also have that as well, right? And there's that issue of having to balance those responsibilities with the work that you have to do, right? And so there's always, except you work within an environment where they recognize work-life balance, and they have policies to help support women, like Dr. Chizo had said earlier, having flexible working hours, allowing your employees to work from home so that they can balance all of those domestic responsibilities very well alongside their work. So yeah, those are the kind of barriers that I have seen women with color experience. And like I said, particularly with the second point, that applies to everyone, including women in color. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that, of course, has precluded them from, going up the career ladder as fast as. In fact, I've seen people who have dropped off, with the responsibilities at home. They're like, you know what, I can't handle this. I'm just going to focus on, the home front, and then throw away your career dreams and all of that. So I've seen that happen as well.
So I think, so previously I used to shy away from this particular question around work-life balance for women because, it was something that women were constantly being asked, but men weren't being asked. But I think shying away from that question is a disservice because it's an issue that shows up time and time again for various generations of women who are going through the corporate ladder. So let's talk about now, given Iola's response, right? And maybe Iola, you can speak first, and then we'll go to Dr. Chizo and Bukola. But what are some of the ways that you have managed to balance your career, given your home responsibilities?
And I must say that I have a huge responsibility at home, both the ones that I have inflicted on myself that I should be delegating that I've just chosen not to delegate, right? And the ones that I cannot delegate, right? So for me, in reality, I've been lucky to work with an organization that they're just, as long as you're delivering your work, they're okay. So if you're working from home, they're fine with it. They're happy with flexible working hours as well, right? And I've been able to use all of these things to my benefit. So today I'm working from home, but I also know that I'm delivering, whatever work that they give to me, I'm delivering. So, and again, with the advent of COVID, it's very easy for all of us to know that, particularly with work services, the things that I do as lawyers and a couple of other people as well, you realize that it's doable. You can work from anywhere in the world. People are now beginning to look beyond being physically present at work and concentrating more on the delivery of tasks, like Dr. Chizo had mentioned earlier. And I think this is like the best thing that could happen to women in trying to balance work and life, and that's how I've been able to, handle my own, work-life balance issues.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you for also being vulnerable enough to say that some of our challenges are self-inflicted because we have refused. Because as women, we have our things, right? We have our things. Like, no, I'm not delegating that one. That one is for me. And we know we are suffering under the pressure, but we are still not getting that. So thanks for being honest, Iola. Dr. Chizo, what about you?
So let me go from a different angle. Sometimes I haven't managed the work-life balance, and that's the truth. Sometimes it has suffered. Sometimes I have burnt out because I just have not been able to deal with it. Either because of how the work was structured, because I wasn't able to leave it alone. I had to carry work home. So sometimes the reality is that sometimes the work-life balance, it doesn't balance. But that's and I don't want to pop anybody's balloon, but that's the truth. Sometimes the work-life balance doesn't balance, and sometimes you have to make a decision. Do I carry on, or do I, like, something is going to suffer? However, in the times where I have been able to manage the work-life balance, one thing that has really been important is working with a supervisor or a boss that is understanding, and an organization that has those structures in place. Because sometimes, even when the organization has that level of flexibility, if you're working with somebody that doesn't want you to have the work-life balance, you're not going to have it.
You won't have it.
You are not.
Absolutely.
You are not going to have it. So working with people that have been great supervisors and bosses, has been one of the things that's really, really moved the needle when it
Mm.
was important. Yes.
Love that. Thank you. Thank you.
Mm.
So supervisors, like I said earlier, and which makes sense about Dr. Chizo, the now that you are in leadership roles, the flexibility that
Yes.
you give women because
Yes.
you've been there and
I've been
you
there.
understand that. Yeah.
Mm.
Bukola, what about yourself?
Yeah, thanks. Like what Dr. Chizo said, or in addition to what both of them have said, I had a director that once said, "There's nothing like work-life balance," and I was like, huh? And like you have to find the harmony. It's
Hmm.
to be honest, it might not just balance. Excuse
Hmm.
me, but you just have to find that what works and at what stage in your career what's the priority.
Hmm. Hmm.
So at a certain stage, home could be priority. Maybe you have young kids, or maybe for like me, where I waited for I tried to conceive for a number of while. At a period in my career, I like, okay, if I keep on with the work stress, it's gonna affect me more. So I had
Hmm.
to focus on myself and
Hmm.
my health program or regime at that time. If I get a low rating at work, I was already prepared for it. Of course, the ball won't drop,
Mm.
but I'll do what is sufficient to keep the ball
Hmm.
moving. And
Hmm.
I'll
Yeah.
put the extra focus on my health at that point. When the table turned, I was like, you know what? Okay, there's a bit of structure at home. I can give 120% to work,
To work.
get this moving. Then,
Hmm.
so you have to look at the different areas or what stage you are in your life and find out
Mm.
what gets more, what gets less. And something more would likely suffer, but be clear about what we suffer and the impact of it, and be clear about what won't suffer and the impact, because that helps you take a better decision. And also you have to learn to delegate. You
Hmm.
have to be clear, can I delegate this both at home and at work? At times we do so much at work as females, you feel until I do everything that's when it's perfectly done. No, learn to work through people as well, because the more you delegate at work also you're building others and you have some time to even do more things. So those are the ways. At times I'm like, you know what, you have to do this. And will they do well at the beginning? Not necessarily, but it helps you coach and guide. It could be more, because at times you feel, if I'm done it, I would have finished and I'm done. But you have to take that pain also to groom, because
Hmm.
it might just be a pain in the first two, maybe first 1 year or a certain period. Then after that period, your body, like they say, you have more free time on your hand. So you just have to examine every area, every point. What strategy? What do I want to allow? What don't I allow? What do I focus on? What can other people focus on? Okay, if this person focuses on it, it gives me 90%. Okay, I'm fine with 90%, or it gives me 80%. Am I fine with 80? No, I want 100. Okay, so I do that. So by that, those are the things I've done personally that has enabled me. Then I am also clear. It at times it's hard to like, okay, it might be hard to accept. Dr. Chizo said you look at people that have gone through it. So it could also be you talking to someone that's gone through it before, like, okay, what did you do? Just to get some questions. Or just talk to yourself and like, this is where I am, this is what I need to do, this is what I can control, and you move on. But really, to get that balance 50-50, I don't think so.
Hmm. Hmm.
I
What I'm sorry, you're going to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it all depends on the workplace culture as well. So from what
Yes.
she said, right, that she had a boss that said there's nothing like work life balance, but you can't work within an organization where they actually respect work life balance, right? And where that is the situation, you find that you are actually able to have that balance, right? If you plan yourself well, right? So that's what I
Yeah.
would say. I'm almost pushed to share a story that happened about 2 years
Share.
ago,
I'm
but
pushing you. I'm pushing you to share.
all right. So, so about 2 years ago, my mom was seriously ill. We found out that she was diagnosed of an illness that those illnesses that you hear, and for like a couple of days you won't be able to sleep, essentially,
Hmm.
right? And of course, I'm her primary caregiver. So again, with all of the things that happened at the time, one of the first few things that I did was to speak to my my boss about it. And because, of course, I wasn't going to be as available as I would typically be. I had to take her to the hospital. She had a surgery. It was in the middle of a major transaction as well at work. Of course, I'm the head of legal. So, like you rightfully said, understanding how to delegate. First of all, I spoke to my line manager, my boss, about it, and he was very understanding. There were times that I'll be able to sit at meetings, but the times that when I was not able to sit at meetings, it was okay. Someone else was sitting on my behalf. He allowed me work from home. My work was very flexible. I could deliver work later at night or early in the morning, until a time when everything normalized. Thankfully, my mom is out of the situation now, right? But why am I speaking about this? I'm speaking about it because I work within an organization, or I work with a line manager as well that is understanding.
Line manager.
And through this whole entire situation, nothing fell through the cracks, right? I was still able to attend to my mom. I had a boss that showed empathy, that allowed me to be able to balance my domestic responsibility with my work, because I was still working, right? I still had things I was doing, and there were times that I also delegated. So what I would say is the reality, and then eventually when everything eased out, I, started work normally again. So what am I saying? It all depends on the organization and the line manager you are working with to be able to determine whether or not you have that work-life balance that you're seeking for.
Let me clarify, and Yola, permit me to use your example. So when I say work-life balance, I'm not. Ideally, it can be balanced. Is what do we call balance? And permit me if I use your example. At the point with your mom, the the way tilted towards more to home than to work,
Mm-hmm.
and it's
Mm-hmm.
still balanced.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not 50-50.
It's not
Yeah.
It's
50.
not.
So that's
Yeah.
why I'm
Yeah.
saying that
Yeah.
there's maybe not, it won't be, it could be 50-50 at some time, but we shouldn't be, it's not always a 50-50 at every point in time. So it's understanding who gets more at what
At
point in
every
time,
point in time.
everything not suffering. Not that there's nothing like work-life balance, but not people expect when we say work-life balance, you're giving
It's not
everything
50, they're thinking, right. I get
50-50
you.
at every point in time. There would always be sometimes high,
Absolutely.
some low, some. So it's also determine where do I want. Of course, doing all that you said, explaining. I like thankfully, like in organization, I've worked in good organization. We started flexible working way before COVID. So when COVID came, it was easy for everyone
To
to
transition.
continue because the organization had the structure already, had the policy already. In our boardrooms, you'll see I'm closing 5 p.m. so I don't miss my maybe child's dinner, or I don't miss bedtime and things like that.
Mm.
But it
That's
also
good.
boils down to the kind of line manager you have. Then
You
as
have.
females also ask, talk, don't assume they know, or don't assume they should understand. If there's a need and you need some time, please open up, ask. The worst,
Mm-hmm.
I tell
Mm-hmm.
myself, the worst I'll get is a no.
It's no.
But if I don't talk, I've still gotten the no. So you'd ask. So those are the other things you put in place. Work out, or and also have a plan B. So if I'm going to meet my bosses, I won't be able to work this time. You might not have the solution for the full plan B, but you could have an idea of, okay, this person can do it, or I can do this, and this person continues, or when this person finishes, I would
Our
go through it, check or supervise, because you also don't want the company to suffer because you're not there. But you going to ask for time out, flexible time and all that. Also to say, okay, these are the structures that are already in there, or this is what is in place, or this is where I can come in. But it's always good to open up. Don't assume, especially if you have a mailbox, don't assume you understand what you're going through. Or even if it's a female, but don't think because
Yeah, don't.
she's
She's
had
a
a baby,
woman.
she understands. Women are different. So don't even think because she has a child too, she should understand that with my child, this is what no, you guys might have different home structure, different things, or went through differently. So don't assume people know what you're going through. Be clear about what you want, have a plan B or a solution to or a backup, and go ask for what you want.
Love that. Love that. Very practical conversations here. And I like this idea that we are harnessing around work-life balance. As it being, it's not, when we say balance, it's not 50-50.
Yeah.
And when we use harmony, it also means that there are sacrifices to be made across that whole value chain. But also there is a role for us in the sense that we also have to speak up about our own issues, like Iyola's example as well. Okay, so let's move on. I introduced you ladies earlier as part of the LinkedIn Visibility alumni. My question to you now, so it's about your personal brand.
We
So
lost
can
you for
everybody
a
hear
few
me? I think I went off
seconds.
for a bit, but can everybody hear me?
Yes, we lost you for a
Yeah.
few seconds.
Okay. Yeah. So I was saying around there's no way I can bring you ladies here without asking about your personal branding strategies because I introduced you earlier as LinkedIn Visibility alumni. So I'll start with Iola and then I'll go to Dr. Chizo and Bukola. Iola, Iola, what I almost said Dr. Iola there. Iola, you
Start
getting a
with
PhD? I'm not aware of because I almost
start
called
with
you Dr.
who?
Iola. Yes, I'm going to start with you,
Starting with
Dr.
me.
Chizo.
Okay.
Yes, yes. So tell me, what are some of your, how are you intentional about building your personal brand? And what are your strategies around that?
Okay, so the first thing is I actually got a coach, right? And I'm a firm believer in getting a coach. When you don't know how to do something, walk up to people that can help you through the process so that you can achieve the results. I've seen it work for me, so I will do it over and over again if I have to. In terms of my personal branding strategy, one of the things that, of course, I got to do was to first of all identify my niche area and my values. What do I want to be known for? Right. And having done that, one of the things that I have now started doing, and I've been doing it for about 1 year now, is establishing my presence on social media. So I tend to, because I now know my niche area, I want to be known for, that aspect of not necessarily law now, because it's not only that I have several niche areas by the way, or areas of interest, more like. So I tend to, put out content out there, content that are insightful, that could help other people, that they could learn from. Another major thing that I tend to do as well is that I'm very particular about learning, continuous learning in those areas because I know I'm going to put out content, right? I have to keep developing myself. So what do I do? I get, sometimes I attend webinars, sometimes I pay for training, sometimes I read up on the things that I want to talk about, you know, and that has been a major thing that I've done. A third thing that I will talk about is networking with the right people. So
Excuse me.
I say that I want to be known for a particular thing, right? Who are the people that are interested in that niche area or your area of interest? You need to connect with them, both online and offline. So if it's industry related, you need to be attending industry events, right? That's very critical because not only that's the way that you can get known as an expert in an area or a thought leader in an area. It's not enough for you to learn it. You put out content that will benefit others, and then you connect with other people so that you can gain the visibility that you require. So those would be my points.
I'm clapping for you. Clapping, clapping, clapping. Dr. Chizo, what about yourself?
So quite similar to what Yola has said, starting off with a coach, because at the beginning I was a little bit lost as to what to do. Like, where am I? I know I want to do this. I see people doing it, but I don't have a framework on how exactly to do it. So the first thing was like getting a coach and having that framework. Then when it comes to core strategies, like practical things, is like when it comes to what do I want to be known for, and then what are the categories or types of information that will feed into that, and actually having a plan on how to execute. How many times am I going to post? What am I going to post? And how do I frame the posting? Am I using? Is it going to be fun? Is it going to be an in-depth article? Am I going to use a tweet to teach? Things like that. And then the other thing is actually diving deep into those areas of information. I have a Google notification so that if new things come up in the area, around that area, immediately, so that okay, this is something that I want to talk about, this is news about the area, so I do that as well. And then of course networking, that is extremely important. Networking, learning, I do a lot of books, I do a lot of podcasts, because again I'm very audio driven, I like to listen to stuff. So those are some of the things that have really helped me to in my developing my personal brand. It's not there yet, but we're getting there.
Fantastic. I love it, Dr. Chizo. You know, one of the things I do, speaking about Google Alerts, is I have
Mm,
people that I have Google Alerts
ah,
for. So people
yes.
that mentor me from afar. So anytime they're in the news,
Ah,
I'm like, this is what this person is doing. So that just reminded me when you spoke. And I obviously have a Google alert for my name, so that if my
yes.
name comes up, I'm just like, what's
What did it
where?
say?
Yeah, exactly. So that's my brand. Bukola, what about yourself?
Oh, okay. I like what both ladies have said, but let me deviate a bit. It's your personal branding first starts where you work and the value you create. So we all come online or we want to come online, which is good. But first is in your organization, in your sphere, you have to create value. They have to see your person of relevance, you're growing, your personal when they call your name, they know this person will deliver. As in your bosses are
Absolutely.
confident enough to say, give that job to Bukola and they go to bed. That's what you want to build on. If you have that, then of course you get a coach. Because and first, maybe let me say the two, having a good personal brand in your organization doesn't translate to having a good personal brand online. Because I was lost there for a long time. And you people would know you are I'm a champion in my organization, but outside they might not just know you. So I had to now like, you know what, it's time to get a coach. Also, these are the things I need to do. This is what is required, and you now begin to do that. It now translates you to building your presence, building that thought leadership, being known for something. You have to now transfer what you've known or what you do in your organization and begin to build it online. Of course, you know what do you want to be at the end of the day. Like I tell myself when they're maybe when they're writing my biography or someone is want to make say something about me, what do I want to hear? That helps me shape what I want to become. Then from there you can build on like podcasts, everything they've all said, goals, things that helps you just shape you to become who you want to be.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Thank
Because
you.
I love the range of responses. But one thing, and guys, I didn't tell anybody to say get a coach, right? So, but they all. But I honestly,
But you need one.
I didn't ask anyone to say that. But thank you, but thank you for saying that. Okay, we've come. Like I told you guys, this was going to go really, really fast. So we've come to the end. But I will also have one more question to ask everyone, and that's what does the future of inclusion for female leaders look like in your sectors? Right. So we are talking about inspiring inclusion, but we're not there yet. But we are getting there. But what does that? What does the future of inclusion for female leaders look like in your sector? So I'll start. I feel like I'm always starting with Yola. So let me start with Bukola first, and then we'll end with Yola this time, right? Okay, so Bukola, tell us what does the future hold for inclusion for female African leaders in the FMCG supply chain space?
The future is really bright. I would say that it's much better if I look at where I started from like 13 years ago. Maybe if I look at my organization from a female inclusion of about 10-15% to about 48 to 50%. Not where we need to be, but it's
Wow.
growing. So it's first being deliberate. There's a role of the organization and there's a role of individuals to create that enabling environment. I mean individuals like leaders, people like me, you that have gone up in the career to ensure we create the enabling environment for younger ones to thrive in it. The organization also have to have policies around deliberately recruiting females and policies within the organization to keep them because it's not enough to recruit. You also have to be able to keep them and ensure they go through, they're able to stay through till the end. In the FMCG sector, there's always, it's not a notion, but we know females are most likely the
The
decision
buyers.
makers in terms of consuming what the house consume. So if you know they determines who buy your product, why don't you want them on the table to create that
Mm,
product? So a lot of
mm.
FMCG are actively looking for females, because
Wow.
if you are the one responsible, if a large percentage are responsible of purchasing my product, then you need to bring that brain to tell me what better ways to make the product. So it's lots, as in it's a wide array. It's bright. First of, as female, we need to put ourselves out there, be deliberate about what we do, and but the organization, like I said, plays a role in having policies. At a point, if I would just say free from organization, there's a crèche, there's a mama's corner for lactating mothers, so you can come express if you want to, if I may say that, keep it so you're not losing on. If you want to have exclusive, there's a cool crib to rest off. There are flexible policies, things to do to ensure across the female gender, whatever reproductive stage they are in, you're keeping them within the organization to get to the top.
Fantastic. I love that. So we have a lot to look forward to from what Bukola is saying. There's so much to look forward to. And I love in the previous conversation I was having, it was around representation for women. If we are 51% of the population in Nigeria, then our leadership rooms, our decision-making rooms should be representative of that. So it's good to hear that the FMCG sector is positioning in that way. Dr. Chizo, what about you? What's the future for female inclusion in public health sector?
So in the public health sector, the female inclusion at the moment, I would say, is relatively good. Let's put it that way, relatively good. However, it can be better. And if you're talking about women of African descent, that's an area that needs to be strengthened and it needs to be improved. Now, something Bukola said about women being the ones that are decision makers, it also plays a role when it comes into the NGO sector. If you're part of the population that is being targeted, either it is for projects and whatever, there are nuances and there are layers of understanding that you have that somebody who is not a member of that community, so to speak, will understand. And it will actually help the projects develop more. So I think that if the sector actually focuses more on getting African women involved in some of the development of the projects, the future is looking really, really bright. However, there is a concerted attempt to add more women in leadership roles. However, all those things that Bukola talked about, making sure we don't lose women in the middle when they are still starting out their careers, to make sure that we keep them. And also, another role that women leaders have to play is reach down and pull somebody. I remember when I was starting out my career, I was looking desperately for a mentor, desperately, and I never found one. So you're sort of groping around in the dark. If you've gotten to somewhere, pull somebody up. If you see somebody who has, is showing signs of leadership, the person is bright, the person needs help. Pull the person up. Let the person not have to be the one to ask you, can you be my mentor? Sometimes they don't feel like they have the right, or they don't feel like, pull the person up. So I think these are some of the things that we can look forward to in the future. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chizo. I think that's so important. Reach down and help somebody. Mentorship is so important, and sometimes they are wary of asking, either because they've been
Mm.
rejected in the past, they're not sure how to go about it. So it's if you do notice a woman, lady who has promise, there is an opportunity there. Iola.
So for me, just like Dr. Chizo had said, I think that we're very well represented in the legal industry in terms of female leaders and even female representation generally across various levels. You have partners, a lot of partners that are lawyers. You have judges that are lawyers. Even when you go all the way to the Supreme Court, you have judges high up there that are female, right? I meant to say, right? And so, yeah, I think we're well represented. However, again, going back to this work-life balance, with lawyers, we do a lot of work. We spend so much time at work and all of that. We need to start looking at how we can, and I see some law firms already doing that in terms of flexible, time and all of that. But there's still so much work that it seems like a woman has to subject herself to, right, in order to be able to get to that level of her career that she needs to get. Because you have to work hard to get there. So you want to make partner or you want to get to a leadership role, you have to work very hard to get there, right? So how can we, manage this in such a way that it doesn't negatively tell on the woman's domestic responsibility? But other than that, we have female the female folk are very well represented across various levels within the legal industry.
Hmm.
We've lost you.
I love that, Iola. So yes, there's good
Yeah.
representation, but how do we? There's good representation. So I said there's good representation, but it's how do we keep that representation going? By ensuring that things that would normally, frustrate women out of the workplace are dealt with, right? So
Absolutely.
that's important. Thank you so much for sharing that. We've come to the end. We've come to the end of our. Can everybody hear me? Am I still
Yes.
audible? Has everybody
Absolutely.
lost
Yes.
me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you can hear me. Today on female leadership and inclusion across various sectors. It's been a riveting, very interesting conversation with Iola Bukola and Dr. Chizo. And they've been sharing about what the future of inclusivity looks like in their workspaces, in their various sectors. We've also looked at work-life balance, and we said, okay, maybe it's work-life harmony, right? We've looked at Iola has, told us about how women can or are already helping underserved communities, so female lawyers. We've talked about leadership opportunities. We've talked about what women themselves need to do to be able to attract the leadership opportunities. We've also talked about personal branding, and they've shared their own personal branding hacks. Okay, so it's been a great conversation. These are amazing women again from my community. Thank you for giving of yourselves, your time, and your expertise to be here today. We're looking forward to doing more of this because we have over 100 women in
Absolutely.
our community, and all of them. Sorry, what did you say, Yola?
I said absolutely.
Yes, yes, yes. And we have more of them who are just as brilliant and doing phenomenal work. So please join me saying a huge thank you to Bukola, Dr. Chizo, and Iola. Thank you so much for being here, ladies.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Dr. Glory. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you for everyone that's watching. We're ending the live stream now, but it's still International Women's Month. Please continue to have conversations around what female leadership and inclusivity can look like for women in the corporate space. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.